All right. So this is, if you're going to ask me to do one problem, this is probably it. It's got everything kind of thrown in it all at once. So hopefully it makes sense. If not, you know, rewind it and fast forward it until it does make sense. Or come find me, please. All right. So the first thing I notice is there's a lot of parentheses in there. I'm just going to fix those first. And by fix, I'm going to multiply by the number that's very, very in the front. So 5 times y and 5 times negative 2. 5 times y is 5y. Positive 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Bring everybody else along. There's another parenthesis there. If you're not sure what's about to happen here, then check out the other video about parentheses. But in that other video, I explained that when you have a parenthesis with a minus sign in front, it's not just a minus sign, it's a negative 1. So if you like the number there to hang out there so you can see that it's obviously a number, not just a random symbol, it's okay to put a minus 1 in front of the parenthesis. So what we're really multiplying is negative 1 times 6, which is negative 6, and negative 1 times y, which if you want to write negative 1y or just negative y, either way is fine. I'm going to put the 1 there just because I like to. I don't do that every time, but today just feels right. And then I'm going to bring down that plus 8y. So negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. Negative 1 times y is negative 1y. Bring down the plus 8y. And now, again, what I said to you at the beginning was this problem has a lot going on. So if you only got to see one problem, this would have everything in it. It's got some parentheses. It's got letters all over the place. It's got a bunch of numbers. Some things you can combine and some things you can't. And so I guess I'm just going to try to figure out what I spy in my head. So what I notice right away is that there's some y's like right next to each other. So I'm going to like push them together. Like I don't want y's all over the place. So I'm just going to combine these two. Well, some of you are like, why didn't you bring that 1y over here to be with that 5y? You could totally do that too. Why didn't you combine these? You could totally do that too. Can you move the negative 6? Yep. So you can do a lot of different things here. It's just following logic and are you executing the plan that you wanted to? Can I move this negative 6 over here like this? No. You can move the negative 6. You just can't do it the way I just wrote down. So you kind of have to keep in mind, like, what do you want to do? And how do you want to do that? Because the issue isn't really with your plans. It's the execution. And that just takes a little bit of time. So here's what I'm going to do first. The first thing I notice on this side is that I've got this negative 1y and this 8y. They're literally right next to each other. If they're right next to each other, let's just combine them together. So negative 1 plus 8 is 7. So I'm just going to write 7y because this is really negative 6 and 7y. Because negative 1 with an 8 or 8 with a minus 1, 8 minus 1 is just 7. And if I'm going to do that with the y's over here, it might make sense to do that with the numbers over here. It's okay that they don't have letters. It's okay to do 2 steps at once. It's also okay to do 1 step at once. But anything that is like the same looking, if they're right next to each other, I'm just going to do that. But that's my style. So I'm going to bring down the 5 y's. And then negative 10 plus 4. Brain, calculator. Maybe you believe me. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, you lose your calculator too much. Maybe you're like, you don't use your calculator enough. Okay, negative 10 plus the 4 is negative 6. So I'm just going to write negative 6. Yay. See? So now we've taken a problem that had a lot of chaos, made no parentheses out of it, and pushed the things together that were similar. So on this side, it was the numbers getting together. On this side, it was the letters. But either way, now what I have is a much better problem with like nothing really complicated about it. It's much, much simpler than this one was, right? So now I'm going to, put some more things together. So I spy y's on this side and y's on this side. I can't solve for y's when they're all over the place. I think I say that all the time. So in order for the y's to be together, I have to move them. And I have to move them because unlike here where things were kind of located next to each other, here the y's are really far apart. And more interestingly, or more like importantly, they're separated by that equal sign. So this 5y is all the way over here, and it's separated with that equal sign. So I always like to move the smaller things. They look lighter to me than the bigger things, but it's totally up to you. So I'm going to move this 5y from here to here, but I can't do what I just did. See, like I would love to just be able to go, woo, but mathematically that makes no sense. I can't just move things around. Plus I'm on an iPad. How is a kid with a pencil supposed to do that? Right? You can't just like on a pencil erase this and rewrite it over here. That's not how math works, right? So if you want to move the 5y, you essentially have to make it disappear from the left side and appear on the other side. So the only way that we can make things disappear is by using opposites, right? So 5y needs a negative 5y to make it disappear. And if I write negative 5y on the left, I need to make a negative 5y on the right. And it doesn't make sense to write it underneath the negative 6 because these two things don't look alike. This is numbers, this is letters. So that 5y, I would write it underneath its match, right? So now, the purpose of that was to move this from over here, make it disappear, which it does because 5y's take away 5y's means no y's are left here. So it's just a negative 6 over here. And on the other side, there's another negative 6. That's weird, but that's okay. And then 7y's take away 5y's. 7 minus 5 is 2y's. Yay. And look, we're getting better and better every time because now keep the goal in mind, which is get y alone. To get y alone, I need to get rid of the things that are with y. And the things that are with y, that was supposed to be a highlighter, are this 2 and this negative 6. So always get rid of the thing that's farther away from y. And this negative 6 doesn't count because it's in a different room. It's separated by an equal sign. So when I say what's y with, it's with the things on this side of the equal sign. So we get rid of this negative 6. It's farther from the y. So to get rid of a negative 6, I'm going to add 6. What I do to the right side, I have to do to the left side. Together, this makes 0, negative 6 and 6, which is exactly what we wanted because now these produce a 0. So now I have less things with y, which is great. Now on the other side, negative 6 and 6 together makes nothing. I can't leave a blank, so I do have to write in a 0. Otherwise, if I didn't, it would look like that. And that's weird. So if there's nothing else going on and you need a 0 there as a placeholder because otherwise it's a blank, use that 0. And now same old thing. What's y with? 2. They're connected by multiplication, which we undo by division. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So y is worth 0. And that's not the same thing as no solution. I know that sometimes 0 feels like nothing, but y equals 0 is an answer. Okay? All right, hope that helps.